This is Mr. Boa, and I am here in post because when I first recorded this footage, I was recording it with the audio, and the audio plays totally fine in Windows Media Player or whatever, but if I load if I load the video file in any editing software, or if I upload it to YouTube or whatever, for some reason all of the audio is gone. So I need to do this entire thing in ADR. So that's fun. Hopefully the ADR version will come out okay when I render that. But in the meantime, this is what we got. I'm just clarifying here. So we're going to be playing Saheeli and Hercule's Recall. Due to a challenge I received from folks at Weird Cards, where they wanted to know how exactly I killed 3 opponents on turn 3 in Oathbreaker, and I decided that was too easy. So I'm going to show them how I kill 3 opponents on turn 2. For full disclosure's sake, I am going to show the sculpting of my hand. There's 2 reasons for this. First of all, I'm not going to re-record a couple times until I get a turn 2 win in hand. That's kind of silly. And the other reason is to show off that I am sculpting only my starting hand and not any of the cards I'll be drawing throughout the deck, because I'm going to be playing half my deck over the course of this Solitaire. Most of the cards here are essential. The only exception is the Interplanar Beacon. I don't actually need Interplanar Beacon. That could be any card or any land. I only actually need the other 6 cards, which is the Mishra's Workshop, Grim Monolith, and Basalt Monolith, Mox Opal, Paradox Engine, and Skullclamp. With those 6 cards and Saheeli in my command zone, the game is going to be mine. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. Unfortunately, I think during this bit I was rambling for a while about some of the card choices, but now we're going to draw. We get a Thought Vessel as our draw for turn. That doesn't really matter. Mishra's Workshop casts a Basalt Monolith. Basalt Monolith casts for Grim Monolith with 1 mana floating, Mox Opal, 2 mana, 3, 4, 5 mana from Grim Monolith, and a turn 1 Paradox Engine enters play. Yeah. We're going to tap the Mishra's Factory here for mana and cast one of our artifacts in order to untap our monoliths and float the extra color off Mox Opal. Again, because of the fact that we have Mox Opal with Paradox Engine, we don't actually need the Interplanar Beacon, but I'm going to use it here anyway. In fact, I don't even spend the red mana on this. I just tap the I tap the beacon, but I spend the double blue and leave 1 red mana floating that I can't even use. And yes, that was technically a mistake, but it really doesn't matter, because at this point I've already won this game. I know that. I don't need to look at any of the other cards in my deck. I know that I've won this game. So how we're going to do that. Also, the other thing to point out at this point is we are going to be using Aetherflux Reservoir, which you'll see in a moment. But in order to do that, I should be tracking my storm count. At this stage of the game, I am not. And so I'm going to make a couple mistakes here. I'm going to remember in a second to up my storm count, but my storm count should be 3 because I cast the Mind Stone as well as Saheeli in the Thought Vessel, but I missed that. And then here I'm going to cast the Skullclamp and again forget to uptick my storm count. So it's going to stay at 2 lower than it should be for the entirety of this goldfish. And that's unfortunate, but it really doesn't matter. It just means I need to play 1 extra spell at the end, and that's all it is. So I'm equipping the Skullclamp to my servos here to draw cards, and so I'm refilling my engine. If I didn't have access to that, the way to play it would be to use Hercule's Recall to rebounce all of my artifacts now that Saheeli is in play, and start recasting them with one of the monoliths first into Paradox Engine, into the other start recasting all my artifacts and getting servos for each of them. So then Skullclamp will draw me like a dozen more cards. So that's the reason that I know that no matter what's on top of my deck, even if I whiff the first couple draws, I will win the game off of this. So now we're going to start casting these creatures. Unfortunately, because these are all creatures, they aren't going to get me servos. Mirror Retriever is going to do absolutely nothing for me this game. Mirror Retriever is great for KCI loops and is useful in general. Like, I can use him to get back the Mind Stone that I have already in play here and stuff like that. But generally speaking, for the purposes of this game, where I'm just goldfishing into this one specific combo I'm trying to use, it doesn't really matter. I did use the Tezzeret to put the Aetherflux Reservoir in play right away, so that means that I don't really have the issue of trying to find a KCI loop or trying to decide which combo I'm going for. I'm just gonna search for Aetherflux, and that's gonna do it for me. We're at this point, we're about like halfway through. I should mention most of this recording is going to be me counting and tapping and floating 1,000,000 mana, because we are going to get more mana than we ever need. Think about this, right? Right currently, every time I cast a spell, I generate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, now 10 extra mana, and that's only going to get higher as the game goes on. The most expensive artifact in my deck is a Wormcoil Engine at 6, but most of the cards are going to cost a lot less than that, and that means that Paradox Engine is giving me functionally infinite mana. The only limitation that I have is the amount of cards I draw, which is provided via Saheeli and Skullclamp. And again, if I ever actually run out, like if I fail to draw artifacts this turn off of equipping Skullclamp to the servo, then I just cast Torkoal's Recall and do it all again. But we're not going to worry about that today. Technically, I have a win on board if I just cast Torkoal's Recall, Aetherflux Reservoir, and then just dumping rocks in a play, and I could probably end it a lot faster that way. But we're actually playing this out here, killing servos and drawing some cards. And as you can see, we got the KCI. Not that it matters. Hedron Archive brings us up to 12 mana every time we cast a spell. KCI is going to give us an extra servo, so we're going to be drawing 4 cards here, and we're already above 50 life. So at this point, we can kill a player, but we're not looking to kill a player. We're looking to kill 3 players, so we're going to have to gain another 100 life in order to make that happen. It would be a little bit easier if my storm count was an extra 2 higher, but that's fine. Honestly, we don't need it. This deck can go off functionally forever thanks to Hercules. So, generate another servo, float 1,000,000 mana, draw 4 cards. We get a Coalition Relic here, and we get Coveted Jewel. If memory serves here, I'm going to cast the Coveted Jewel and then forget about the draw trigger for a moment, cast the Coalition Relic, and then go, oh yeah, I was supposed to draw 3 cards. But again, like, the sloppy play really doesn't matter at this point, because we're going off forever. Like, it's very difficult for you to make a mistake when this deck is active that you can't overcome, because you've just hit this ridiculous critical mass of resources. Like, did I even gain life from casting Coveted Jewel? Yes, I did. Okay. But you see, yeah, I have not drawn the cards here. Float a bunch of mana, cast the Coalition Relic. And I think at this point, when I'm going back through my stuff, I realize, oh wait, crap, I didn't draw 3 cards? Did I not? Or do I forget it completely? Oh, yeah, no, okay. Here we go. Now I realize I didn't draw the 3. We have Ashnod's Altar and Mirrorworks. So, Mirrorworks is a disgusting card in this deck. Especially with a Hercules Recall. If you bounce and then get double copies of every single one of your artifacts. Meanwhile, Ashnod's Altar is just 1 mana cheaper KCI. That all of your servos are artifact creatures anyway, so it's perfect. In our deck, in most like KCI decks, you actually want the KCI, but in our list, you can play Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar, and they do effectively the same thing. But fortunately, with Paradox Engine, we don't really have to care about mana, so the KCI is largely pointless. We can set up a loop with Mirror Retriever if we draw a Junk Diver, which I think we will draw a Junk Diver, but it doesn't really matter because we're just going to win the game with Aether Flux. We don't need the Junk Diver KCI loop. So at this point, you can see we have reached over 100 mana floating just casually. Our life total has also gone over 100. We need to cast only a couple more spells and the game will be over. Thank Christ. There's a reason why I call this deck Saheeli Solitaire, and it's that you're largely playing by yourself when you do this. Have friendly reminder, everything that I'm doing here is on the second turn of the game. The only thing I did on turn 1 was cast the Paradox Engine, and everything else, like all of the Skull Clamp has, I only have 25 cards left in my deck. I've drawn half of my library. I've cast 16 spells at once, and I still have over 100 mana and a 10 card hand. This is absolutely bonkers here. So here I use the Mirage Mirror to gain a copy of Aetherflux Reservoir, and that will enable me to just finish this a little bit faster, because that means I only need to cast 2 spells. I should only need to cast 1 spell, but unfortunately, because I screwed up on the storm count earlier, this will put me at exactly 150 life, so I need to cast 1 more spell. So I'm just going to not even bother floating mana. I'm just going to drop Chromatic Star into play, gain 32 life, and then pay 150 life to deal 50 damage to each of the 3 opponents and win the game on turn 2. This was Mr. Poa. This is Saheeli Solitaire. You're welcome, weird cards. You're welcome.